Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. It's officially the last day of March. I can't believe how fast this month has flown by, but it's the last day and it means time to do a monthly wrap up again. So let's see what I read for March and whether I stuck with my TBR or not. This is what I read for March plus some Kindles. Now, this isn't exactly like what my TBR was because I didn't read all the books I was meant to read in my TBR. So I'm just going to go and show you the books that I haven't read that I did have in my TBR, and then we will go into the books I had read and my thoughts of them. So the first book that I didn't read but was on my TBR was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I didn't get round to it for numerous reasons, but partly because I had read in my TBR books that I read, I did read a Matt Haig book and I didn't like the book. We'll get to that in a minute. So I sort of wasn't sure about picking this one up purely because it's got mixed reviews. And because I wasn't overly keen on the Matt Haig book I had read, I was a bit worried that I might not like this one, so I didn't read it. Yeah. Next is The House in the Caribbean Sea by TJ Klune. I really wanted to read this. I was really planning to read it, but I just didn't have enough time to do so, so it didn't get happened. Also, I was meant to read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I wanted to read this, was for a book club. I wanted to read it because obviously in April the series comes out on Netflix, but I've heard mixed reviews. A lot of people say this is really good and then the rest of the series is naff. A lot of people say don't bother with this series and just read Six of Crows. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't 100% sure what to do, so I didn't read it. And to be honest, I'm sort of like, do I read it before I watch the Netflix series? Probably not. I'm probably going to watch the Netflix series and maybe read a book at some point, or not even bother. And yeah, whatever. Was meant to read Six of Crows. This was actually a buddy read. I never got round to it. I have no idea if my buddy read person actually read it or anything either. I haven't been in touch to find out. Purely, I didn't read this just because I had so many other books to read first, and I thought, right, I'll go to this when I get the chance. Never got there because I ran out of book reading time. Yeah. So I didn't read 4 books. However, I did read some extra books for my Retelling 24-hour readathon, which I'll tag the video down below because it's already up. So I didn't read as many books as I was expecting. So I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 physical, and I read 7 Kindle. I think 7 or 8 Kindles. I'll get there in a minute. Yeah. We'll just get into the books that I read. So I'm not going to do it in any order. I'm just going to do the order that is here. So we did the Little World Book Day Killjoy by Holly Jackson, little novella, short story. Not 100% sure what you would call this. I absolutely loved this. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I liked the fact that it was like the prequel before the rest of the series. So it was before A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and before Good Girl Bad Blood. I felt this was just a really good extra book to read before the 3rd book of the series comes out. I just love this. It was a sort of like a murder mystery party. It was like a game, but this is when Pip realizes how much she actually quite likes working and investigating. So she gets invited to this party, and she has, basically the game is you have to work out who the killer is. So she works out at the end who the killer is, and it would have been that killer. She would have been right, but the actual game and like the rules of this like company who runs the games did the most obvious killer. And then as she was going home from this party, she then realised that actually the murder that was happened in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I won't go into just in case you haven't read it, but there's a murder that happens there, and the people who think the killer was committed suicide, so it's all done and dusted. But she sort of thought, no, it's too obvious, and because of what happened in this game, she realised no, so she ended up deciding that she's going to find the real killer. And so that's how A Good Girl's Guide to Murder started. Love this. It was a 5-star read. I loved the other books which were 5 stars for me, so this is easily going to be a 5-star because I love the series, I love Pip, so why not? Next, I got Robin Hood by Robert Muchamore. This was part of the Retellings 24-hour readathon, which is my last video from when this goes up. Loved this. This was 5 stars. This was a retelling of Robin Hood, and so Robin Hood in this is actually a hacker, and he learnt his archery skills from YouTube. And Robin Hood in this is 12. His brother Little John is him and his brother have to run away from Guy Gisborne because Guy Gisborne is corrupt. He's got all of the police and everyone pretty much on his side doing his dirty work, and their dad gets arrested for a crime he's never committed, but because obviously most of the people in Locksley are corrupt and in Guy Gisborne's pocket, so Robin and Little John run to the Sherwood Forest, but they both get split up. So Little John gets taken by these women bandits, and Robin hits his head and passes out, but Marion, who is a kid his age, maybe a year older, finds him, and so he gets brought to her home in the forest, which is one of the old malls that no longer gets used, and they converted it. And basically, to get his father out from jail, he has found a lawyer who wants to help because he's not in Guy Gisborne's pocket and wants to bring Guy Gisborne down, but it's going to cost about £10,000 or more. So Robin decides to do his biggest ever hack going and hack Guy Gisborne's cash shop. And because from his dad he found out that the security, there was pretty much no security, so anyone could actually rob the building if they wanted to. So Robin hacks it and attempts to get money out. Whether he does or not, you have to read the book. Absolutely loved it. Loved the world building. I loved how quick and easy it was. I absolutely loved hearing about the hacking and the archery, because I do quite like doing archery. Like I used to do it with like kill camp with school and things like that. And when I went to Butlins with my family, there was little archery bits there, and I actually was quite good once I got the hang of it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So it was really nice learning about archery and hacking. It's a brilliant, quick and easy book. It's only little, and I've actually got the book 2 and 3 on my wish list to eventually get to and read because I want to know what happens. We then got A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. This is for Faith and Gay's March book pick. Absolutely loved this. This was 5 stars. We had a good 5 stars in this month, to be honest. So this is a queer LGBTQI representation. So there is a sapphic relationship and a possible, maybe, we don't know yet, gay relationship. But basically you've got a halfway outcast, which is, I've forgotten her name. That's going to annoy me. Hang on. Arlo. We've got a halfway outcast called Arlo who just wants to be accepted. But as you slowly learn about her in this book, she may not actually be half fae. There may be a bit more to her than anyone realises. Then you've got the tempestuous Fury, who's hell-bent on revenge, which is Nausicaa. So she was outcast as a Fury because of something she did in her past, and so she's gone to have to live in the mortal realm for the rest of her life. So she's not a Fury anymore, but she's still a badass fairy with big skills. So her powers as a Fury was fire, and she still has got that, just not as strong as what she was as a Fury. Then you've got the Prince, which is Veyhan, I think, it's very hard to pronounce words, who is determined to actually be king, but he doesn't want to be like all of the other royalty. He actually wants to help out the Ironborn, which is humans basically. And then you've got the Prince's Guardian, which I have no idea how to pronounce, Aurelian, I think, who is burdened by a terrible secret. We don't know what the secret is, but it's something to do with Veyhan's mum. And also the Aurelian, I think, has quite a... I think he's in love with Prince Veyhan. Whether it's reciprocated, we're not 100% sure in this book. But basically, there's a series of murders in like the mortal realm, which obviously has humans, but obviously the fairies, the fae, live along it. And obviously these murders are kind of sort of showing the humans that faes, that, you know, there are fairies and other things, so they're trying to like cover it, but it turns out that actually so basically faes that have got like half fae and half Ironborns are getting targeted and getting killed, and there's something to do with the Philosopher's Stone. I don't want to go into it because I know a lot of people have this on their TBR and are about to read it or are reading it, or if you have read it, no. But it's amazing. I absolutely love the queer representation because obviously Faes and Gays is an LGBTQI fantasy based book group. I just loved it. Everything about it I loved the characters, especially Arlo and Nausicaa. They were my favourite. They are absolute badasses in their own way, especially Nausicaa. The world building, the magic, the different creatures, like we have a Reaper, we've got giants, we've got goblins, we have gods as well. It just had absolutely everything you want in a fantasy in this book. Brilliant. And I have heard that there is going to be another book, which I think someone said out later on this year or maybe next year. I'm not 100% sure, but I am absolutely here for the next book because I want to know what happens, because it does leave you on a cliffhanger. Then we read Agatha Christie, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which is the first book in the Poirot series. This was my prompt pick by Hannah for my Go Fish TBR game. I read it. I didn't love it. I can't remember what rating I gave it. I think I gave it 3 stars at a push. I have one more Poirot book, which I am going to read to see whether the next book gets any better. But personally, I think it's just the wrong era for me. This is based after the Great War, which is World War One, and it's very old and outdated that I'm used to. And to me, the actual murders that's going on wasn't overly brilliant. Like, you have like a very split bit of this crime, and then you go into the investigation with Poirot, and the actual potential murder was boring. And then I did enjoy the investigation part, which I think is why I bumped it to 3 stars. But like I said, I will try the second book to see if it's any better, but honestly I don't have any high hopes, and I don't think I'm going to continue with the series. I'm really sorry to Hannah and everyone else who loves Agatha Christie. I feel bad because this is Hannah's like favourite author and series, but unfortunately it just did not do it for me. Then we're going to this book, which I did start reading. I didn't finish. We have my first DNF that I think I'm sharing on here. I might have already done one before, but I read the Radleys, which is the 4th prompt for the Mean Girls March readathon. So the 4th prompt, I think, was The Limb That Does Not Exist, which was a book that's been on your TBR for ages. So I picked the Radleys because I had this since I started Bookstagram, which is nearly a year ago. So I got to, hang on because I put them down. I got to page 221. So I got halfway, or just over halfway. But I was not vibing with any of the characters. As much as this was about vampires, it was actually just pathetic, in my opinion. I couldn't finish it. I could not finish it. And I was slowly getting myself in a reading slump from it. And I thought, no, I'm not going to read a book that I know is going to put me in a slump. And then I'm going to be stuck on reading anything. So I did not finish this. And I am actually unhauling it because that was quite a big throw because it wasn't happening. So I obviously didn't know whether a DNF book would be counted still for the prompts and the Mean Girls readathon, so I decided to choose a different book for that prompt that still had been on my TBR for ages, and I chose The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, which is also my Go Fish TBR. It was the book I pulled out of my TBR jar, so it worked well that I had it for a prompt, but also I needed to read it because of my TBR game. So I've had this from probably for ages before I even started Bookstagram, to be honest, and I did not know what to expect from this. I couldn't remember what it was about, and I kind of went in blind, and I'm glad I did. So you follow two people, Natasha and Daniel. Natasha lives in New York City, but she is a immigrant, so she hasn't got any papers. So she actually is currently 12 hours away from being deported back to Jamaica. And Daniel is a Korean American who was on his way to get his hair cut to then go to this interview, to have an interview to go to Yale or somewhere to train as a doctor, but he doesn't want to do that. He actually wants to be a poet and all that. So this is sort of about the universe and destiny and fate and all that, and basically they end up meeting each other, and Daniel decides to prove to Natasha by science, because she's a proper science nerd, that she can fall in love with him within a few hours. Does that happen? You'll have to read it. If you already read it, then you know, but I absolutely loved it. I loved learning about the culture, especially Korean American and also Jamaican culture, and also about how immigrants and deportation works. I absolutely loved how this followed the universe. So it was sort of every person that these two characters met, this person had their own story. It was only like a chapter, but they had this story and how meeting these two characters changed their life. And basically, so it didn't end happily, which I'm quite happy about, because sometimes when you read a romance book, it's always happily ever after and that kind of stuff. I like the fact that actually something happened, but they didn't get the happily ever after, but they did end up actually by fluke, fate, coincidence, whichever you want to go, whether it's the universe, they do actually meet up like about 20 odd years later, and it ends in that bit of they meet, but you don't know whether stuff happens, whether they actually go into a relationship or what. But love this. I loved it so much that I actually went and watched the film, which I did have on my wish list on Netflix. I just never watched it purely because I wanted to read a book first. Absolutely loved the film. The film wasn't completely the same as the book. There were some bits that were different. Unfortunately, what I loved about this book was like the meeting of these different people in a universe. They didn't do it in a film, which annoyed me. So I must admit the books are a lot better than the film, but I loved this. I was absolutely surprised at loving this. So it was an easy 5 stars for me, and I do have her other book, Everything, which I think I probably may read in the summer, because it will be a perfect book to read outside with the sun, because I absolutely love the writing and what she thinks of. I just thought it was brilliant. Actually I'll read that afterwards because it's for tours. Next I read Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This was for the Mean Girls readathon again, and the prompt was on Wednesdays we wear pink, which was a pink cover. So I know it's not fully pink, but we did this. So this follows Hazel and Josh. Hazel is, in a polite way, very weird. She's weird, she's quirky, she's flamboyant, she's a massive big joker. She's nuts, and I love her. And Josh is, I think again, he's Korean. I think again he's Korean American. So basically, this has a lot of Asian culture. It's my first book, if I'm going to be totally honest, that does talk about Asian culture, and I am absolutely here for that culture. And I've got quite a few other books that have Asian cultures and Asian authors, which I do want to read because of what's been going on with the Asian community at the moment as well. I want to read more, but I love this, absolutely love this. So it's a romance. You know me, I'm just starting to like romance again, and this really done it for me. It's steamy, it has culture in it, which I like because it wasn't fully romance. It was what I think it's more a friends to lovers trope, because they weren't really enemies. I just loved it. I loved everything about it. This is the first time I've read a Christina Lauren book. I do have Roomies, which again I really want to read. She's just amazing at what she writes. She's amazing. So this was easily another 5 stars. And then again for the Mean Girls readathon, it's October 3rd, which was either a spooky or thriller book, which this was both. It's The Oak. I was kindly asked to read and review this book by the author herself, Sunny Valero. So she kindly gifted me an actual paperback. Originally it was going to be a Kindle, but she wanted me to have the paperback, which I'm honestly so grateful. I wasn't sure what to expect in this book, so I saw the book trailer that she sent me and it looked amazing, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really, really good. And I wasn't sure how spooky it was going to be. And it was a bit spooky. So the start of the book, it got spooky. So basically Daphne is a young writer. Her last family member, which was her Aunt Clara, dies, and so she leaves the Oak, which is a 400-year-old family heirloom, which is a massive big mansion. And so Daphne goes to live there for A, to help with her writing, she's in a bit of a writing slump, and B, to like do it all up. And whether she stays to live there or sell it, she hadn't decided yet. But literally the first night she was in there, she meets a shadowy ghost with very loud breathing, and it starts like touching her, and she freaks out. And yeah, so she ends up getting someone who used to work for the Oak to go and work there, and she starts getting a bit paranoid. Every night this like ghostly shadow keeps coming there. So at first it was quite creepy, and I thought, oh my god, it's a bad ghost. But as you get into the book, no, this ghost isn't actually bad. It's obviously a ghost, you're going to be freaked out. But after a while, Daphne learns that actually this ghost isn't there to hurt her. She got the vibe that it was more friendly. Anyway, we go into this book, and it's sort of, at first it's Daphne's accounts, and then it goes into other people's accounts, which is Daphne's mum, which was, I can't remember her name, bear with me. It was Daphne's mum and Eleonora, which was her mum, and then Clara, which was Aunt Clara. But basically, this is a book of ghosts from the past, like actual physical ghosts and ghosts in your family past. And it was also a book where it's a game of smoke and mirrors, secrets entwined by grudges and misunderstandings. Basically, she learns a lot of family truths, and there was an absolute humongous plot twist that I did not see coming, and when it came I was absolutely like, no. I threw the book because I was that shocked, but it was amazing. And this is the only book that Sunny Valerio has had translated into English. She has got other books, but they're all in Italian, and I've said to her that I really hope they do get translated into English, because I would love to read more of her work, because she writes so captivating, so lyrically, and for a little short book it was packed to punch with so much stuff. It was brilliant. 5 stars. Then we have to talk about A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. As you can tell, we loved it. 5 stars. 5 stars. I'm not going to go into it because I think by now everyone knows what it's about. I don't want to spoil it because some people probably haven't read it yet. If you have read it, then you know. Love this. My favourite book of the series, to be honest. I love Nesta, and I know a lot of people hate her. Even after reading this, they still hate her. But I loved her. I love that this book really dives deep into trauma, and I know some people weren't sure about it, but it's wrong to say enjoyed, because it shouldn't be enjoyment of someone's trauma, but I just really appreciated how much it went into, and in all honesty, it does happen. I think it's very true. It's very appropriate with what happens in the world. I love Nessa. I obviously was very here for the Nessa and Cassian enemies to lovers thing, and I did not see any of this coming. There was one part of this book which I started thinking this is going to happen, and it did. Even though it happened, I did not see any of it coming. I did not see the last bit happening, and I blubbed. I blubbed because I honestly thought, oh my god, that's it. If you've read this, you will know what I mean, but I'm not going to say what it is. Oh, loved it. And I'm going to be honest, so I read this like mid-March, and I will be totally honest, Liz put me in a book hangover. I loved it so much, and so I went from this to the Radleys, and I thought it was just because I was having a book hangover from this was why I wasn't liking the Radleys. But I started trying to read other books before I picked up The Sun Is Also a Star, and again I just wasn't getting any, and I thought, no, it's not the book itself. I think it generally is because I loved this so much that no book could compare. And so I did have a couple of days where I just couldn't read, because I thought, no, I'm forcing myself to read, and I just need to have a calming down session from this. I have got a vlog up of this, which I will tag in the description so you can see it, because I have some amazing expressions and shocks and everything. Love this. This is my favourite read, obviously, of March. I loved it. And then lastly, I want to talk about some book tours, and then also my Kindles. So I read The Dare by Leslie Cara for Random Things book tour. I'm going to be honest, I read this after A Court of Silver Flames, and this was obviously a crime thriller, and it didn't have the wow factor. I gave it 4 stars. It didn't have the wow factor for me, and I did see a lot of it coming, but I do like Leslie Cara. I do like the way she writes, and you are captivated. And I must admit, it was a bit of a slow burner for me halfway through. I think I got to about chapter 22, chapter 23, and then it started picking up, and then I couldn't put the book down. But it was missing that wow factor that she usually does in her books. And as well, because I saw some bits coming, I just was a bit like, oh, as in usually some of her books I've read, I do not see anything coming. I don't know who the killer or anything like that is. So yeah, it was good, but it wasn't one of her best books in my opinion. I then read The Third Son by Victoria J. Price, which was for Love Book Tours. I'm going to cough, so sorry. Absolutely loved this. Went into this thinking it's not going to be brilliant. Oh, it was. 5 stars. 5 stars. I've actually got book 2 on my Kindle, which I really need to read because it ends in a massive big cliffhanger. I can't remember what happened though because I read it so early on. I read it at the beginning of March because my tour was like literally the beginning of March. But we follow Thea Eldridge, who's an orphan. Her parents died. Her sister just recently died, so she's grieving. She's full of loss. She doesn't belong anywhere in her opinion. She sort of just lives life as she can. She just finds out that her boyfriend was cheating on her, so she's in a really bad state. And all through that, she swears that she's got an angel following her, but no one can see it, and so she thinks she's going nuts because of the grieving. She can also hear things, especially when she's in the graveyard visiting her parents and her sister. She can hear things, and then while she's actually visits her sister like she always does, she actually finally sees a ghost properly and thinks, no, I'm not imagining things. So she goes and follows him, and she follows him completely into a portal, and she then is in this world called Ohinyan. And it turns out that she actually needs to be in this place because she is a prophecy to apparently save that world from the dying sun and from this like massive dark shadow. It's about angels, it's about fae, it covers a lot of magical things. It's fantastic. I must admit, I've read this at the start of March, so I can't fully remember what happened now. But I know I loved it. I know to the point that I read this I think I read this in a day. It was that very quick paced. And Alexander, who is the angel, there's like a romantic part in this as well. Yeah, the romance scene actually was really steamy, to be honest, but it ends like sort of happily but not, and it ends in a cliffhanger, and I want to know whether she goes back to Earth basically, and I want to know whether she goes back to Ohinyan and gets back to Alexander. So that's why I got book 2, because I wanted to know. Another book for Love Book Tours was The Dreamer, which is on my Kindle. Loved that. That was an easy 5 stars. I read it in 2 hours straight. I like literally stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning. I started it like at midnight, or just later actually, and I could not put it down. It's basically a romance book, but a paranormal one. So she has a massive big, I can't remember what the characters' names are, and I can't be bothered to go on find my tablet to learn, but basically she's called a dreamer because she actually dreams these things. So she has a condition where she passes out, and while she does that she dreams, and she uses those dreams and starts writing. And the dreams that she has is of her massive big crush, who's also a pro wrestler, and she just thinks it's just like an infatuation thing. But it turns out actually no, she is a dreamer, which is a special supernatural thing. And the main character in this, who is a pro wrestler, who is her crush, has these dreams too, and they're connected. Apparently they're mates, but the wrestlers in this book are all wolves, and basically they need to find this dreamer to break this curse, because if they don't break the curse they will be proper wolves, to the point that they won't shapeshift. They will always be wolves, and they don't want to be that because it means they will hunt humans. And so it's like this trying to meet, and then these two meet, they fall in love, but then a massive big plot twist happens, and then it's sort of right at the end it's sort of, are they going to find each other? Are they going to get back together? Yeah, it was brilliant. I really recommend you to read it, especially if you like your supernatural, paranormal romance. I loved it, and it was such a breeze, and it was just a very light, easy read. The other books to talk about, the 2 ones were e-arcs. The first was My Kind of Beautiful by Nikki Ash. I read My Kind of Love, which I did have on here, but it's not there anymore. I've moved it. So yeah, I read My Kind of Love, which is by 2 different characters, but they are still sort of in the second book. So I do recommend you, if you want to read the series, to read My Kind of Love first, purely because those characters are in the next book. But My Kind of Beautiful follows Lexi and Alec, had to think. Alec's a firefighter, Lexi is a surfer, but she doesn't know what she wants to do in life. Basically, they're best friends. They both fancy each other, they're both in love with each other, but they won't act on those feelings purely because they don't want to ruin the friendship. Obviously, I'm a very big friends to lovers trope lover, because every book that I've read with that trope I've loved. So basically, something happens in Alec's personal life which makes him realise that life is too short, and he needs to tell Lexi how he feels, because he does think she may reciprocate these feelings. So he tells Lexi, and she admits that yes, she loves him too, but she doesn't think she can act on it, purely because if something happens, it will ruin their relationship, and she can't not have him as a relationship. So Alex sort of then starts thinking, fine, I'll prove to you that, you know, that this isn't going to end, that I love you and we're going to be in a long relationship, and he just wants to prove it, and so he does. But while this happens, she agrees to go on one date with this bloke who is like a surfer friend of hers, purely to try and get Alec out of her head. So in some sense she used this bloke, but it does not mean she deserves what happened to her. Basically, she goes on this date with this surfer friend, and after the date he said, oh, I'd like to see you again for another date, and she said, oh, I can't, like, I said I'd agree to one, but I like you as a friend. I do like someone else. So in the end, Lexi gets with Alec. They have, like, you know, because they're best friends, they've been best friends for years, their relationship's very quick. They all live together, so her and her sister live in the same condo with him. So she ends up moving into his room so his friend could take her room, because he was squatting on the couch. And basically they have their romance, they get engaged, other things happen which I won't say because it's spoiling, but she along the way starts getting these nasty threats from the guy she went on a date with. And there is one part where he attacks her, but she doesn't realise he attacked her until after it happened, and she gets all her memories back. Basically, this book is obviously romance, but it does have some important topics. It has important topics about self-hate and like trying to find yourself. It talks about loss. It does talk about assault and possible sexual assault. It's got some dark, deep things which weren't really in so much in the first book of the series, and I really liked it because it made it a bit more realistic, I suppose, which obviously with what happens with the attack isn't nice. I enjoyed it. It has got a happily ever after, but I gave it 5 stars, but there are a few bits in here that I thought actually that would not happen at all. That is really far-fetched. It wouldn't happen in real life, in my opinion, but I won't say what those knacks are because it spoils the book. So that was that one. I also got an e-arc which was Backstories by Simon Verdeld. I can't pronounce it, but yeah, you see it. And this is a very short, quick book. It's only 90 pages, and basically it's a short story, so each chapter has a actress, actor, someone who's famous for whatever it is. They're famous, but you have to work out who it is. So I think the ones that I worked out was possibly Adolf Hitler, Greta, that one who does the climate change. I think the one I definitely am right was Otto Frank, which is Anne Frank's dad. Yeah, I think they were the 3 that I think I'm correct. But you basically have to work out who the famous person is and to see whether it's right. It was really interesting because I think if it gave that away, the book wouldn't be so there. I gave it 4 stars. The reason why I didn't get 5 stars was because it didn't have the wow factor. But I did like the fact that I had to work out who it was, and I was so invested in trying to work it out. I started Googling things, and the Google helped and gave me that answer. Others, it still was so vague, I didn't work it out. But it's one of those books that I'm going to keep going back to see if I can work it out. But there is a Backstories number 2. So I'm really interested to read in that and to see how that goes as well. But it's definitely a quick, if you want a quick short read, that's one for you, because it's sort of a little whodunit, like who do you think it is, little mystery. It was very different to what you normal books read. So that was that. And then the other books that I read were graphic novels and mangas. So I'll put them all up here. I'm not going to go into too much details, but Cinderella got 5 stars, and I've actually purchased the second one on my Kindle because I need to know what happens. This is for the retellings readathon. So Cinderella, she was a spy, but that got 5 stars. I read Beauties. That wasn't brilliant. It was not a very unique retelling in my opinion, so that got 2 stars. I read Alice in Wonderland, which was a manga. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't as brilliant as the others. I gave that 4 stars. I read Snow White with the red hair. I didn't enjoy that at all. I didn't get what the gist and why anyone wanted to read it, to be honest. So that got 2 stars. And the last one I got was Tempting Hades, which was 5 stars, and that is a Greek mythology retelling of Hades and Persephone. And so with this, it's they fall in love and have happily ever after kind of thing, rather than the whole thing of Hades forced her to go and be queen of the underworld sort of thing. So yeah, I had not as much of a good month as I have in my previous months. However, I still read quite a lot, but I didn't stick with my TBR. I'm happy that I read the 2 books that were in my Go Fish TBR game, because if I hadn't read either of them, I would have had a punishment. So I'll be going into the April TBR without a punishment. But I'm hoping to get my reading mojo back, because what I have already planned for my April TBR that isn't part of the game, so I haven't done the game yet, I've got quite a lot of books to get through. So April might be a busy month depending on how the TBR game goes, and if it's a busy month I need to get my reading done. But yeah, I still had a good month. I had a really good month in a sense of star ratings, because a lot of books I read were 5 stars. So, but yeah, that is my monthly wrap up. If you've read any of these books, please pop in the comments your thoughts on them, whether you agree with me or not. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That would really be lovely. It would also help my channel out as well. And yeah, take care. The next time you will see me, I'll be doing my April TBR, and we'll see what my Go Fish game gives me. I'm hoping it will be a good one. Take care everyone. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.